and then take these amazing researchers, students, invest in them, and partner with the biggest funds exist as acting as their scouts on campus. So this is the idea. We are now fundraising from our classes and beyond that. So if you are interested in that, you are welcome to come talk to us. And if you know other startups and people that we should meet, we'll be happy to meet with them. We are now doing our first investments, so happy to meet more startups. So anyone that you have in that reach, we would be happy to hear about that. So we'll end with that. We have two amazing scientists that will share with us their story and their research tonight. One of them is on the snow of the ocean, and the second one on black hole and gravity. I will stop here, probably I will be wrong from now on. And we're also happy to have more researchers to come and share their research going forward. So we are doing that event once every other week or something like that. So if you have exciting research or your friends, you're welcome to talk with us. And without further ado, we'll start, and Yuval will be our first speaker. Thank you very much for coming, and we'll let Yuval introduce himself. We have 15 minutes. Yes, 15 minutes TED Talk, and then 10 minutes Q&A.
Can you hear me without this?
No.
Oh, okay. But I have those cue cards on me. So hi everybody, I'm Yuval Jacobi. I'm a postdoc researcher here at MIT EAPS, the Department of Earth Sciences. And I'm going to tell you today about marine snow. So imagine you're on a research vessel, on a ship, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Around you on the deck are all sorts of very, very expensive oceanographic instruments, which in a few moments you are very carefully going to throw them overboard into the ocean. It's a beautiful day. The sea is calm, just a gentle swell that rocks the boat. The sky is blue. But under the surface, there's a hidden blizzard. Not of ice, but of tiny specks of life and death, slowly drifting into the deep. The ocean may look empty from above, but underneath the surface, it is always snowing. So what is marine snow? These are tiny specks, not of ice, but are aggregates of plankton, algae, detritus, mucus, and dust, the ocean's dust bunnies. They are fragile, they are fluffy, and they sink slowly. The term marine snow was first coined by late 19th century, our early oceanographer, who saw this mysterious white fluff in their collection nets. Using the first microscopes ever built, they observed these specks and saw that they are made of organic matter. And these particles have been studied ever since. And it's not an easy task studying marine snow. When we haul seawater onto the deck of our research vessel, the particles are so fragile, so fluffy, they often break apart before we can see them. It's like studying snowflakes on your hand while they're melting. So, a pretty hard job. Marine snow looks delicate, but it is everywhere. It's endlessly drifting downwards, and it turns out it's more important than anyone first imagined. To understand why it's so important, we need to take a minute and talk about the global carbon cycle. We all heard the term carbon. It's one of the elements. And we all heard that the amount of carbon in the atmosphere is increasing, warming our planet. But the total amount of carbon on Earth doesn't really change. Carbon just cycles from different forms. In the atmosphere, it is in its inorganic form as carbon dioxide, CO2. CO2 is also dissolved in ocean water, can also be found inside rocks, in soils, and in animals and plants, and all living organisms. It is in its organic form, organic carbon. It is a major part of all the biomolecules, proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and the rest. The process that cycles carbon from its inorganic form to its organic form is mitigated by biology, all these processes. One of them you all know, it's called photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is where plants and algae use solar energy to convert inorganic CO2 into organic carbon that is energy rich. In contrast, respiration, what we all do all the time, is a process where we take energy rich organic carbon and oxidize it to use its energy, and we cycle it back from organic carbon to CO2. In the ocean, photosynthesis only happens at the surface, where there's enough light to power it. And all that organic carbon that is formed in the surface ocean sinks to the depth as marine snow, as these aggregates, as these oceanic snow bunnies. Oh, dust bunnies, sorry. Without marine snow, organic carbon would simply stay at the surface ocean, near the atmosphere, where it will quickly cycle back to CO2 and back to the atmosphere. So marine snow is one of the Earth's greatest shuttles of carbon, taking carbon from the surface ocean into deep water where it can stay for centuries. All this shuttling of nutrients and energy from the surface to the deep ocean feeds all the deep sea life, all the organisms that live deep underwater. Marine snow is the basis of deep sea food webs. But since it carries carbon from the surface into the deep ocean where it stays for a long time, it also regulates our climate. In the 1980s, oceanographers called that process the biological pump. Pump pumps carbon from the surface ocean into deep water where it stays. It's a simple but it's a powerful concept, so I'll go over it one more time. Phytoplankton, algae in the ocean, photosynthesize and produce organic carbon by taking up CO2 from the atmosphere. They then form marine snow particles, which sink deep into the ocean and stay. The renowned oceanographer of that time, John Martin, understood that in some areas of the ocean we can enhance phytoplankton growth and marine snow formation by fertilizing the ocean with nutrients, such as iron. He once jokingly said, "Give me half a tanker of iron and I'll give you an ice age," which is fascinating and terrifying and also very much an exaggeration, but it does capture some truth. The ocean today absorbs roughly 25% of human CO2 emissions, in large part thanks to that biological pump, thanks to marine snow. And this fact sparked an ongoing debate and intense scientific work trying to figure out how this biological pump operates and whether or not we can hack it to engineer our atmosphere and mitigate climate change. Every speck of carbon that sinks into the deep ocean is a part of this great biological pump, which regulates CO2 and controls Earth's climate. Marine snow particles are alive. If we can shrink down and step inside one particle, we'll see around us a forest of algae teeming with all sorts of microbes. Microbes that consume oxygen, cycle all sorts of nutrients, microbial predators, and their prey in this endless cycle of life and death at small scale. This amazing complexity was discovered only in the late 20th century, largely thanks to the introduction of sophisticated instrumentation such as microelectrodes. Using these instruments, we were able to detect steep gradients across very, very short distances. So across these micrometer to millimeter scale particles, we see chemical and biological gradients that are amazing. This means that life inside a particle are very, very different than life in the bulk water, in free water. So each particle is not just falling debris. It is a living world. And only recently we were able to peer inside these microbial ecosystems. So as I said, I'm a postdoc here at MIT EAPS. And in my lab, which is located afterwards, you can look at the green building. It's a tall building with a radar dome on its roof. In the 18th floor, we study marine snow. We fabricate artificial marine snow particles, which we seed with algae and bacteria. And we use microfluidic devices to simulate the ocean that flows around these particles. This way we can control factors like the chemistry of the water or the intensity of the light that shines on these particles. And we can monitor and observe the microbial activity in them. This setup allowed us to discover all sorts of things. For example, we saw that within a tiny particle, within the core of a tiny particle, there can be complete anoxia, meaning the particle is completely devoid of oxygen, even though the water around it is oxygen rich. We also found out that if you shine a light on these particles, this oxygen concentration field inside shifts, and the way the microbes inside the particles cycle nutrients also changes. These experiments or these results allows us to come up with an idea and formulate hypotheses, which we can then take with us as we go outside on research vessels to observe the actual ocean. So we go on these cruises, a month long usually, all throughout the ocean. We deploy all these very expensive oceanographic instruments, among which are these giant pumps, which help us to pump thousands of liters of water to capture a lot of particles on these special filters, which we take back to the lab, and we can analyze their content. We can sequence the DNA of the microbes that inhabit these marine snow particles, and to understand the microbial ability, the microbial activity in them, and how the biological pump operates. This powerful combination of lab experiments and ocean observation allows us to link between the hidden life, if you will, inside marine snow and the vast biogeochemical cycles that shape our entire planet. So when people think about the ocean, they usually think about fish, dolphins, and whales. But the truth is the ocean is a microbial realm. And what's really out there is that quiet, fragile, secret snow. It's everywhere. Marine snow links the surface ocean and the deep ocean. It feeds the deep sea ecosystems. It regulates our global CO2, and it stabilizes our climate. It is those smallest things that have the largest consequences. This quiet snowfall is maybe fragile and quiet, but it is powerful enough to shape all the world around us. It links the surface ocean and the deep ocean to the atmosphere and to our lives on land. So, unfortunately, summer is almost over. I'm sure you can all feel. And not too long from now, Boston will be covered with snow. So the next time it snows, think about these tiny particles. Each of them micro, complex, amazing ecosystem. And think about that oceanic snowfall. Fragile, silent, but shapes the world around us. Thank you for listening. Do you like my cue cards?
So per square kilometer on equatorial latitudes, how is marine snow carbon intake from the atmosphere compares to, let's say, forest in Brazil per square kilometer?
So I think it's a great question. I think it really depends. If you want to go into the equator, then the ocean loses. But if you go to the 60 north, 60 south, the ocean wins. Not by a lot, but especially when, depending if the forest is at steady state. Because a steady state forest, which grows at the same rate as it is decaying, does not fixate carbon, right? Because trees respire as well. So it contributes CO2 as much as it takes up, roughly speaking, if the forest doesn't grow. But in the ocean, we have this sink, right? Carbon is fixated at the surface and goes to the deep or it stays. So you have this constant shuttling of carbon. And it will cycle back to the atmosphere, but it takes a long time. By the way, it is the time scale that correlates to how deep these particles go. So a particle, if it goes to 100 meters, the carbon in it will stay in the ocean for roughly 100 years. Goes to, if it reaches the sea floor, we're talking about millennia. Yep.
Maybe they should take the
Sure. I can shout.
Hi. Thank you very much.
Sure.
What induces the formation of the marine snow? And can we facilitate it to mitigate global warming?
So, just like everything in nature, it's not one thing, it's a lot of things. But roughly speaking, there are two main sources for marine snow. One would be aggregated phytoplankton. So you have these microalgae cells that bloom in the spring and autumn. So suddenly you have all of these cells in a very dense, you can see them from space. And then when they die, they aggregate, and these aggregates are marine snow. So this is one type of marine snow. And the other is zooplankton poop, which is also very important. In fact, there's a tail migration of zooplankton of, yes, Itamar, I'm studying sinking poop. It is true. Zooplankton often migrate. They swim to the surface ocean. Zooplankton is like copepods or krill or all these tiny little animals. They swim to the surface, eat all these algae during the night, and during the day they hide at depth where they poop. So they inject particles into deep water, which is also, in recent years, turns out to be quite important quantitatively. And the second part of your question, whether or not can we enhance the formation of marine snow. So there's at least one company I know that is trying to do that. It is very complex, mainly because during the fact that whenever these particles sink, they are being degraded by the microbes that colonize them and by other organisms that scavenge them and feed on them. So we'll need to have a much better understanding of the pelagic ecology, of the ecology of the open ocean in order to kind of really hack it, I think.
On the mechanical level, it sounds like pretty much one of the most important parts in this process is the sinking.
Sure.
Now, as you describe these fluffy things, it sounds like something that is very hard to sink. Is it something that first varies between different types of marine snow, and second, Is it something that suppose that we want to use it to affect global warming or I don't know, something like that? Is there some way to affect the mechanism of sinking to boost up this pump?
You are smart. Yeah, this is maybe the settling velocity, the speed by which this particle sink to the deep ocean is maybe the most important factor we need to understand. So let me try start with what we don't know or don't do. In our global models, many of them were developed and kind of maintained here at EAPS at MIT. We treat particles as this one thing, one bin of carbon that has all these traits, right? Of course, the reality is different. Particles differ from one another. So, for example, some phytoplankton has this outer shell. Look up coccolithophores. They're beautiful, beautiful microscopic algae made of. They have this shell out of calcium carbonate. Rock. Rock is dense. Rock is heavy. So when they form marine snow, it sinks quickly. When other types of phytoplankton, like cyanobacteria, form marine snow, it sinks slowly. Sometimes it never sinks. So yes, it matters a lot. Whether or not we can hack particle density, I think it's a radical idea, and I think it's worth exploring. But I don't think anyone is
Is
really
it only
doing that.
density or also shape?
Yeah, shape is obviously a factor as well.
Well, thanks very much for your talk. I'm curious, is there an equivalent forest snow? Forest snow.
So I don't know much about the forests, but maybe an analog would be, so you know how you walk in a forest?
Yeah.
And the soil you're stepping on is not really soil, it's this humus layer, right? This layer of organic matter. And if some of this organic matter gets buried deeper into the ground, then it potentially can stay there for a long time before the organic carbon in there is respired back into the atmosphere. So I'm not sure. So I don't want to speculate, but I guess it's also an important sink of carbon. Right? It's a guess. Yeah.
Any other question? Perfect. Thank you so much, Yuval. Wait. So, I introduced myself as someone from 26 Ventures, but we're a big crew. Some are here and some will join us. So we have James and we have Victor. You can raise your hand. We have Paul and we have Gur there, and we had some other people. And Shai hopefully will join us, and some other people. And again, you guys, we can talk about it later if people are interested. And I will let James say something.
So I think we would just like to say thank you. I personally learned a lot as someone who comes from a finance background. It was just amazing to hear about some of the research happening on this campus outside of Sloan. And so we would like to present you with this hat and just thank you very much for your time here today. It was amazing.
And it's mainly this science talk came from the Monday Jewish lunch on campus, when as a normal person that knows nothing about science, I meet all of you guys, which you are way smarter than us, and it's so exciting. And I talked with Yuval and I talked with Maor, and it's very exciting. And again, we are grateful that you guys and Maor and Yuval stepping outside of the comfort zone in the lab and come and share. We know that it's a bit outside of the comfort zone and exciting, but we're very grateful for that. And going from the word underneath, we'll go to the word beyond. So, Maor.
Good evening. So, I'm actually very happy to have the opportunity to